Warning, this topic may be bad for your health. The FDA unveiling new graphic cigarette warning labels this week. The government says it's to encourage people to stop smoking. Sounds reasonable. But Tracy, you see a slippery slope here. You say that the president's health care law makes sure of it. Why?
You know, look, Health and Human Services Secretary Catherine Sebelius came out this week and said they were going to focus more on obesity, on tobacco. 3/4 of medical spending is driven by both obesity and tobacco. So all of a sudden, they're jumping to the preventative care cause. Hello, why didn't we do this from the get-go? And you know why? Because they're realizing that Obama's health care plan is not going to be able to afford to cover these kinds of costs. So they're going to slap labels on everything. I am an avid coffee drinker. You just wait. My coffee cup's going to have this, like, death-defying label on it someday, I'm sure. There it is. There it is.
That is scary.
It's very scary. And then, you know, wait, John Layfield's chips are going to get attacked too, John. You just watch. There it is.
You better leave my chips alone.
Wayne Rogers, I like myself a good donut once in a while. Don't go after the donuts, Wayne. Is this what's next?
Well, I think the answer here, it's a more fundamental question, is if you're going to let the government tell you what you can eat, what you can do, what you can, there's no sense of individual responsibility. If you're going to say we have an equitable amount of freedom, you've got to take individual responsibility. Otherwise, just give it up. You know, become a slave to the federal government. Let them dictate everything. They're going to tell you what to eat. They're going to tell you how to live, how to sleep, all of that. You got to get rid of it. Get the yoke of the federal government off your back and vote against this kind of stuff.
Well, Jonathan, I mean, look, and Sebelius has made these points before that when it comes to smoking deaths, premature deaths related to tobacco use, it is expensive. It costs us billions of dollars each year. And she may be correct in that. But is it the government's right to tell us we can't smoke if we want to smoke? Jonathan? Okay.
So what you're saying, Cheryl, Wayne,
It looks like Jack
Wayne hits the nail on the head. This isn't about smoking. It's about freedom, all right? This is a free country, and in a free country, adults make their own decisions. They act in their own self-interest, and you know what? Some people like to smoke. Come here. Some people enjoy it. That's the problem with socialized health care. When you give government the responsibility of paying for your health care, as Wayne points out, you give them the right to tell you how to live your life. This is the beginning of that.
Wait. Crystal, before you, I just want to go on the record. I don't think smoking is a good idea for everybody at home. If you're under 18, don't watch Jonathan. But Crystal, like, you know, look, this could go further than a lot of people suspect, and it could go to other areas besides smoking. Maybe we're going to see this with food and with drinks. They're trying to regulate how we market soda pop. I mean, this keeps going. It really does.
Okay, this is information. No one is saying you can't smoke. No one is saying that if you want a Big Mac after the show, you can't get it. It's just information to help us lead healthier lifestyles. I don't see what the problem is with that. We are literally almost the fattest nation in the world. Our teen smoking rates are on the rise. This does represent 3/4 of our healthcare spending. Whether you like the Affordable Care Act or not, nobody can afford these healthcare costs. If they weren't doing something, it would be negligent.
Yeah, but we should have addressed this from the get-go. I mean, I think we should have done this from the get-go then. We didn't need this, like, this stupid administrative nonsense that we're calling our new health care bill then.
There is a huge focus on preventative measures in this health care bill, as a matter of fact. So that is absolutely the case. So there has been a focus on this.
And we're the
ones that are paying.
Layfield, is that a waste of money? I mean, we're talking about huge debts. We were just talking about it in the last part of the show. Is this a waste of money? Are we going too far with the government getting involved?
Yeah, it's a waste of money. Look at like most guys in college. They date some skinny girl. Her mama weighs 300 pounds. They go ahead and marry her anyway. They end up with a wife that weighs 300 pounds. Guys ignore warnings all the time.
Wow.
Everyone does. These warnings do no good whatsoever.
Wow.
Look at what government did in 2009 with the roll your own tax. They crushed the independent grower. They crushed the small tobacco in favor of the big tobacco. The government is behind big tobacco because they're lobbyists. This is window dressing.
You know what? Actually, since we've started having warning labels on packets of cigarettes, the percentage of smokers in the U.S. has gone down dramatically. So it's been very effective.
Crystal, you're an adult.
It's the same with putting calorie counts on food. It hasn't made a difference. I just don't look at it when I eat the donut now.
It's gone from from 42% to 20%. That is a huge,
studies have shown
difference.
that does not make a difference at the end of the day.
Crystal has a great point here, and that a lot of these things are bad for us. But I think the point is also being made here, and Wayne, I think this is to you, that people are still going to do it. They're going to smoke. They're going to get
have the right to do it.
And men do it too, by the way, John Layfield.
Well, but it's not a question
for
of
that.
whether it's good or bad. It's not a question of whether it's good or bad. By the way, you have to say somebody has to make a judgment whether this is, quote, good or bad.
Okay.
And
The
you can't let the
individual.
Can I just
government make that
reiterate
judgment,
that
for God's sake.
the
These are
government is
people
not
who are
telling
crazy.
you
So you
anything.
have got to, at some point in
Of
time,
course they are.
you have got to take responsibility and do it for yourself and not expect the government to dictate to you what is good and what is bad.
And that's the fundamental evil of socialized care. We've said it before. He who writes the checks makes the rules. Next thing you're going to see is some kind of warning label on my chef's salad that I shouldn't get the extra $1,000
come
dressing.
on.
This is literally the road to serfdom.
Well, John Layfield, by the way, I've heard many men have said, oh, I'll go to the gym with you. Coming up. It goes both ways, buddy. They fail.